Can I share with you one of the things I think that keeps most people stuck and still drinking? And that's the idea that you have to get to this point where naturally you will feel like it's the right time, that either you hate alcohol or you've hit a rock bottom, or the timing, the stars just align. And it really doesn't happen like that. I'm Louisa Evans. I was a grey area drinker for many years, and now I'm not. I no longer touch alcohol. I stopped drinking over 3.5 years ago, and I can assure you that it does get easier, things do change, but you do have to work on your mindset in the process of going sober. And that's why I want to talk about the one idea that you have to get to this magic point where you're ready to give up. Maybe you won't be, maybe you aren't at that point. And then that's what's keeping you stuck. You're waiting for the perfect window in your diary to stop, or you're waiting for this perfect feeling inside or the mindset to click, and it just isn't happening. And there's a reason for that. Alcohol is addictive, and alcohol is the thing keeping you hooked in. So I want to share my experience and to share with you some practical tips to help you challenge those thoughts. As I've said, I was a drinker for many, many years, and I didn't get to a point where I hated alcohol. I was holding two beliefs at the same time, actually. I was hating some of the things that alcohol was doing. On one hand, I was reading Quit Lit, and I would go through these phases of really disliking it on the one hand, and then on the other hand, I still liked it. I still wanted to drink, and that was what was luring me back every so often in that kind of resetting loop that I found myself in for so long. And so it is possible to hold two truths at once, and that would be the first piece of advice that I would give you. Don't wait for absolutes. You can be fed up with alcohol and still kind of a little bit in love with it at the same time. You can want to give up and still want to drink at the same time. You can stop and still miss it. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. And the idea that you will get to a point where one day you're looking back and saying, right, I would never touch that again, that can happen, and that happens with time, but it doesn't happen straight away. So if that's something you're waiting for, that's the first thing you need to change. Maybe you found yourself saying to yourself, it would be just so much easier if I got to the point where I didn't want wine, or I didn't want that Prosecco or that lager or that beer. But actually waiting for that day to come could be the thing that's keeping you stuck. I understand why it seems logical, doesn't it? If you hated alcohol and you're reading all of this Quit Lit and absorbing all of this content like this video, then it would be easier to stop. If you could just stop wanting wine on a Friday night, if you could just stop romanticizing that glass of something at the end of the day or at the weekend, then it would be so much easier. But actually, that comes with time and with distance. So what you actually need to focus on is acting anyway, noticing that you can hold two truths at once, that you want to stop, and you actually, at the moment, probably still want to drink as well. And then deciding which one of those voices is going to win at each time. Throughout this video, as you watch it, I want to get you thinking differently. I want to stop you focusing on this idea that if you stop desiring alcohol, then it would be so much easier, and to start asking yourself some different questions. Instead of asking, why do I still want a drink when I'm telling myself that I don't? We've all done it. We've woken up at 3 a.m. with anxiety, at 6 a.m. sworn that we're not going to touch a drink until the weekend, and then poured the drink at 5 p.m. that night anyway. We've held that conflicting, flip-flopping internal dialogue that seems absolutely exhausting. I've been there, I did it too. So instead of asking yourself, why do I still want to drink when I'm telling myself I don't? Ask yourself, what feeling am I trying to create in this moment? What feeling am I craving? Is it one of relaxation? Is it one of excitement? Is it one of wanting to alleviate stress or worry? What do I think a drink will actually give me? And if alcohol wasn't available, what else could I use in this moment? Because for each of those emotions, each of those situations, there could be a different solution. If you're upset, you could talk to someone you love. You could talk to a friend, connect with them. If you're feeling stressed, you could journal or write out the problems. Again, talk to someone about the worries that you're having. Use cognitive distancing techniques, listen to a hypnosis, go for a therapy session. If you're feeling angry, you could walk out that energy, that frustration. You could vent and rant to help you process. And if you're needing relaxation, then give yourself permission to sit down on the sofa and relax with a cup of tea. Alcohol, the chemical, has this illusion of relaxation, but what it's doing behind the scenes is raising your cortisol levels. And that is anything but relaxing. That's what's causing that anxiety spike the next day, which starts off the following day paying the debt for the drinking you do this evening. So you need to find out what it is you're looking for. What emotion are you trying to evoke or soothe or solve? And then find a different way to do it. Instead of asking yourself as well, why can't I stop thinking about wine? It seems to be all I can think about the minute I tell myself I'm going to stop. So what can I do about that? Ask yourself these questions. Am I remembering the whole experience of drinking or just the first drink, the first 20 minutes? Because that's the illusion, that's what hooks you in. You need to remember what happens with the second and third drink too. Then play the tape forward. Play the tape forward to tomorrow. How will you feel tomorrow? Because I guarantee if you've not had a drink, you're going to feel absolutely amazing. And then when you don't have a drink, lean into that feeling. Keep reminding yourself of why you're doing this and the gains. Maybe you're further along into sobriety and you're still having pangs or noticing with the change of seasons or a sunny day that you're getting thoughts about drinking. And you're asking yourself, why am I still wanting alcohol in this moment? Rather than asking yourself why you're still thinking about it, it's important to ask yourself, are you thinking about it less than you used to? Because I guarantee you will. Maybe you're in your third week, fourth week, second month, sixth month. You'll get the odd fleeting thought because alcohol will have been a pattern and a habit that you'll have repeated many, many times. Sobriety is still a new habit to you. So the brain might just revert back to that old neural pathway with an external trigger out of the blue, like a sunny day. So the thing to really remind yourself of and to focus on is, it's not why am I thinking about it in this moment? You'll have drunk for potentially decades. It's actually about asking yourself, am I thinking about this less than I did a month ago? Because I bet you the answer is yes, but we can get very single track minded. We can get very filtered in our thinking especially when that wine witch voice is trying to convince us that it will never ever go away. And so we may as well have a drink to shut it up. Because that's the ultimate aim of that nagging wine witch voice. That's why I called her the wine witch, because I wanted to give her a character. And I know a lot of people in the sober space use that phrase, and it does help to distance from the thoughts that you're having. See it as a character that you're arguing with, rather than this internal craving, this voice that you need to obey. Maybe you're asking yourself, how do I get to a point where I really hate alcohol? Well, time and distance will help with that one. And one of the things you can do to help you in that process is to create a list of what are all the things that alcohol has taken from me and what are all the things that sobriety has given me, and keep adding to that list. Because for me, drinking alcohol, wine at 5 o'clock, not even excessively some nights, but then excessively other nights, that grey area drinking pattern, drinking more than I should, that cost me so much. It cost me my confidence. I had health anxiety, so it cost me my peace, my internal peace. It cost me peace of my mind. So I'd constantly be trying to control it, count it, limit it, bargain with it. And in sobriety then, all the things I then gained were internal peace, contentment, confidence, free of health anxiety, freedom of thought. My thoughts are no longer preoccupied with how much I'm drinking, when I'm drinking, whether I should stop, when was I going to stop, how worried I was about my health. And that's just the internal noise that was going on. If you look at all of the different things that have changed for me since stopping drinking 3.5 years ago, well, my health has changed unrecognisably. My rosacea is no longer a problem for me. I no longer have IBS. I no longer bruise easily or worry about this aching that I had in my kidneys. It's freedom from all that fear and worry. I no longer have one eye on the bar or closing time or on a bank holiday Monday wondering when the shops are going to shut and if there's enough beer at home or wine at home like Dale and I used to. It's just completely freed up so many different things. I could go on and on and on, but create your own list, what alcohol took and what sobriety is then giving you. And the final question I want you to ask yourself is, am I really missing alcohol? Or am I missing the lifestyle that alcohol sold to me? Am I missing the illusion, the advert, the marketing, the illusion of connection, the illusion of friendship, of laughter? Because undoubtedly you will have had times when you were drinking that you'd have experienced those things. The highs, the frivolity, the laughter, the joy, the connection. But actually, it wasn't alcohol providing those things. Alcohol may have sometimes been a bit of a lubrication, a social lubrication for you, maybe even to help you with confidence socially. But all of those things will have come from the people you were with, the things you were doing and the way you were connecting. And alcohol has hijacked that memory. Alcohol's become the thing you miss. Whereas actually, if you've had a lovely time with somebody, it's because of the person, it's because of the connection that you had, and not because of what was in your glass. You need to prove that to yourself though. You need enough time sober, you need to be clocking up those days. And if you cave every single time you have a thought about drinking and tell yourself that you're going to start again tomorrow every time, then you're not really proving anything to yourself. You need to be clocking up the distance from day one. This isn't about a purist day count. This is actually just about getting alcohol out of your system, getting alcohol out of your head, and learning sobriety as a habit. And then you could also ask yourself, do I actually need to hate alcohol? For some people, that's necessary. Or do I just need to fall in love with my life without alcohol even more? Because that's a lot easier process to begin. Notice all those benefits. Wake up in the morning and spot the gratitudes for the day, but make sure one of those gratitudes is directed at why you're sober, why you're not drinking. What are you getting out of it? What are the gratitudes that you're feeling? I would list gratitudes like reading my book the night before. I never ever used to read. I read so much now I'm sober. I never used to read at night. I love reading my book to go to bed. Or taking my makeup off. There isn't a day in the last 3.5 years that I haven't taken my makeup off. I used to sleep in it, and I think actually that's another reason why my skin has cleared up, because actually I'm treating it a lot better now. Or it might be that you've changed the bedding, you've put extra effort in, or the bedroom's tidy, or the house is clear, or that you're up half an hour earlier because you're not nursing a hangover. Be really specific, keep noticing those benefits because they will grow. And you can also do things like listen to my Sober Rebel podcast, because on that I talk to my guests about the 3 big benefits or areas that have changed for them in sobriety. And those are really important conversations to have and to listen to regularly, because everybody has different benefits. They might all fall under similar umbrellas, usually around things like confidence or clarity or presence, or energy, or better sleep, or less worry, more control over thought processes, more control over what we feel we're doing in life. Maybe there's better outcomes at work or with family life. Maybe relationships have improved. You can also then honestly look at it and say, actually, if I was being honest, where has alcohol dented? Where has alcohol negatively impacted me? Because it will have. For me, it was threatening my marriage. It was zoning me out when I wanted to be present with the children. I had hangovers that sometimes took me out of the moment the next day. And sometimes I'd have just had one eye on the clock, one eye on when it was acceptable to pour that glass, rather than physically being there, physically and emotionally being there in front of somebody talking to them. I may have even, with friends, been watching how slowly they were drinking, thinking, come on, hurry up, let's get to the bar, let's get the next round in. And you don't want your brain or your energy or your focus being hijacked like that. So do that, create a list, all those reasons to love sobriety and all those reasons to dislike alcohol. And you will get so much time and so much evidence in the sober camp as time goes on that you'll end up then realizing that it's not so much that you need to hate alcohol, it's just that there's nothing to like about it. You'll even get to a point, like a lot of people do, where you won't like the taste. I know I've certainly got to that point, and that was freeing as well. It's not something I even like. I was out the other day with some friends and we were at a theatre, and we all know what warm theatre wine is like, and it was a bit yellow and it was a bit horrible. And I said, do me a favour, can I just smell that a minute? And I had a sniff just to reaffirm to myself, not because I was tempted, I was just really curious as to what it smelled like. It smells horrible. And when you step back from alcohol long enough, you realise it isn't that you like the taste, it's that you acquired the taste. Think back to when you first tried alcohol. What was it you drank? Maybe it was something sickly or sweet like cider. Maybe it was something like Smirnoff Ice if you were in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. Maybe it was something like a WKD Blue. I don't even know if they still do those. But that was the sort of thing that I would drink when I was younger, because actually I didn't like the taste of alcohol. My taste for alcohol developed over time, but I never acquired the taste for spirits. I never liked gin or whiskey or brandy. They were too strong tasting. And so if you think about the way that you've had to learn to like alcohol, you can learn to not like it. You can unlearn that. And then you'll start to realize that there are a lot nicer drinks to drink and a lot nicer tastes than ethanol. So don't sit there waiting for this perfect time, this perfect window or perfect opportunity or perfect mindset, or this moment where you're just going to realize you hate alcohol. Hold two truths at once. You can still like alcohol and still want to be free of it. And then keep building up that sober time. Keep building up the distance from day one. Share with me in the comments where you're at, what's worked for you, maybe what you're struggling with at the moment, and I'll respond, because your questions might help somebody else, and hopefully my responses will help as well. If you like this video, please could you take the time to like it and share it if you find it useful or you feel that somebody else could benefit. And if you'd like to subscribe, you'll be notified of all my future episodes as they go live. They will be posted regularly. I've got lots of content lined up for this channel, lots of ways of helping you in your sobriety, whether you're sober curious, whether you're still drinking and wondering about sobriety, or whether you're further along in sobriety and wanting tools to deepen and strengthen that so that you aren't wobbled at any point, if you want more tips and techniques. And as always, send me any ideas, anything you'd like covered, send it to me as a message or comment below. Thank you for watching.